When we talk about trusting in Allah's wisdom, we are, in essence, talking about surrendering to a reality that is much larger than ourselves. It's easy to say, I trust Allah, when life feels orderly and predictable, when our plans align with our prayers. But true trust reveals itself when life takes a turn we never anticipated. When everything we thought we understood about our future begins to unravel, that's when we're forced to confront a profound truth Allah knows, and we do not. You see, our human perspective is painfully limited. We judge moments based on what we can see and feel in the present. We label things as good or bad, success or failure, ease or hardship. But in Allah's view, every event is part of a grand design, a divine tapestry woven with perfect wisdom. What looks like chaos from our angle is often meticulous order from His. The very thing you're questioning today might be the thing that saves you tomorrow. The door that slammed shut may be the one that prevents your destruction. The delay you hate might be the time Allah is using to prepare you for something far greater. Think about it. If we truly understood everything Allah understood, trust wouldn't even be necessary. We would simply agree with His plan because it would make perfect sense to us. But because we cannot see what He sees, trust becomes the bridge between our limited knowledge and His infinite wisdom. That bridge is built on faith, and faith is often built on moments of confusion. There's a psychological depth here that's worth reflecting on. The human mind craves certainty. We feel safe when we can predict outcomes, control situations, and make sense of the world. But the spiritual path requires that we learn to be at peace, even when we don't have all the answers. That's where the heart takes over. Faith asks us to accept that not knowing is not the same as being lost, because Allah never misguides those who sincerely trust Him. And that's the paradox of belief. The more you surrender to Allah's wisdom, the more you gain clarity, peace, and strength. The Prophet I said, wondrous is the affair of the believer. For if something good happens, he thanks Allah, and it is good for him. And if something bad happens, he is patient, and that is good for him. This hadith isn't just a spiritual reminder, it's a psychological truth. It tells us that a believer lives from a place of meaning, not reaction. Because when you know that every outcome carries purpose, even your pain becomes sacred. Let me put it simply, Allah is never random. There is no such thing as coincidence in the life of a believer. What appears accidental is intentional. What feels delayed is precisely on time. And when you truly internalize this, you stop fighting the flow of life. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is Allah trying to teach me through this? That shift in perspective transforms everything. It turns despair into reflection, and reflection into growth. Sometimes Allah hides the wisdom of a moment to protect your faith. If you saw the full picture too early, you might not handle it. So He reveals things slowly, just as dawn reveals the light, not all at once, but in gentle stages. His timing is perfect because His knowledge is infinite. So the next time something in your life feels unfair or confusing, remind yourself the author of your story knows the ending, even if you don't. And if the pen is in His hand, your story is safe. Trust in Allah's wisdom doesn't mean you'll always understand life. It means you'll stop needing to. And that is where real peace begins. Faith is a beautiful concept when spoken about, but it becomes deeply challenging when lived. It's easy to talk about trust in Allah when the path ahead is visible, when your du'as are answered, and when life unfolds according to your expectations. But what happens when the silence lingers? When the door you prayed to open remains closed? When the outcome you begged for never arrives? That's where the real test of faith begins, not in clarity but in confusion. Not when things make sense, but when they absolutely don't. You see, Allah tests faith not to see if we believe, but to show us what kind of believers we truly are. In theory, everyone trusts Allah. But in practice, when the storm hits, that's when you discover whether your trust was rooted in emotion or conviction. The moments of uncertainty, the heartbreaks, the setbacks, the unanswered prayers, they strip away all illusions. They reveal whether your faith was built on blessings or built on Allah Himself. And that distinction is everything. Because many people love Allah as long as He gives them what they want. But when life becomes difficult, their relationship with Him weakens. True trust, however, begins where comfort ends. It's standing before Allah and saying, even if you take everything, I will still believe you are good. That's not weakness. That's the highest form of spiritual strength. Think about Ibrahim A.S. standing before a blazing fire with nothing but trust in his heart, or Maryam A.S. alone in pain, giving birth under a palm tree, told only to shake the trunk and trust. None of them saw the full picture in those moments. They only saw hardship, but Allah saw purpose. The same is true for you. What you perceive as a breakdown may be the beginning of your breakthrough. What feels like rejection may actually be redirection. From a psychological perspective, uncertainty is one of the hardest experiences for the human mind to tolerate. We crave control, we want to predict, plan, and prepare. But the path of faith demands that we walk even when the road disappears. That's the spiritual paradox. Allah takes away certainty to give you something greater, dependence on Him. Because the more you depend on certainty, the less you depend on Allah. And that's why the Prophet A said, when Allah loves a servant, He tests him. Why? Because through those tests, your faith is purified from dependency on worldly outcomes. It's like refining gold. The fire removes what is impure. Each hardship burns away a layer of ego, doubt, or attachment until what remains is sincerity, faith that exists not because of what Allah gives, but because of who He is. The truth is, when you're being tested, you're not being abandoned, you're being chosen. Allah is drawing you closer through discomfort. He is detaching you from things that distract you from Him. Every unanswered dua is not a rejection, it's an invitation to trust deeper, to rely more, to surrender completely. So the next time you find yourself in the middle of uncertainty, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is Allah trying to develop within me? Because maybe He is strengthening your patience. Maybe He's deepening your reliance. Maybe He's teaching you that faith is not about knowing what will happen next, but knowing that whatever happens, He is with you. The heart that learns to trust Allah in uncertainty becomes unshakable. Because once you've seen His wisdom in your darkest moments, no storm can scare you again. You begin to realize that the same hand that closed one door is capable of opening 1,000 others. So when life feels uncertain, remember, that's not the end of your faith. That's where it truly begins. One of the greatest misconceptions of our time is that control equals strength. Society teaches us to plan every step, to master every outcome, to always be in charge. We glorify the idea of being self-made, of shaping our destiny with our own hands. But spiritually, that's an illusion, because the more we try to control everything, the more anxious, restless, and fearful we become. True strength isn't found in controlling life, it's found in surrendering to the one who already controls it. To trust in Allah's wisdom means to recognize the limits of your own. It means understanding that your knowledge, no matter how vast, is still incomplete. You see only a single frame of your life. Allah sees the entire film. You judge a situation by how it feels now. He designs it by how it will benefit your soul in eternity. So when something doesn't go your way, it's not necessarily a setback. It might be divine redirection. When a door closes, it isn't rejection, it's protection. And when you surrender to that truth, you begin to live from a place of peace rather than panic. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in to the wisdom of the one who never makes mistakes. It means saying, I will do my best and I will leave the rest to Allah. That balance is what defines tawakkul, real trust. It's not passivity. It's not sitting back and doing nothing. It's working hard, praying sincerely, and then letting go of the need to control the result. Because you know that the outcome, whether success or failure, carries goodness if it comes from Him. The Prophet A demonstrated this balance so perfectly. He planned, he strategized, he prepared, but after doing all he could, he said with calm conviction, Hyaf, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is enough for us and He is the best disposer of affairs. That statement isn't a resignation, it's liberation. It's the freedom that comes from knowing you don't have to hold the universe together because Allah already does. From a psychological perspective, this surrender is deeply healing. Much of our anxiety stems from trying to control what was never meant to be controlled: people, timing, destiny. We carry the weight of outcomes that don't belong to us. When you surrender to Allah's plan, you free yourself from that weight. You stop overthinking the what ifs and why me's. You stop measuring your worth by results, and you begin to live with the quiet confidence that whatever unfolds is exactly as it should be. Philosophically, this kind of surrender requires humility, an acknowledgement that human perception is limited. The same event that seems painful now may in time reveal itself as mercy. Many of us can look back at moments we once questioned and realize they were precisely what shaped us. Allah's plan often makes sense in reverse. Only after the storm clears do we see the wisdom in the rain. But here's the beauty: when you truly hand over control to Allah, you don't lose power, you gain it. Because your strength is no longer dependent on circumstances. You become grounded in faith rather than fear. You stop reacting to life and start responding with serenity. That is the strength of the believer, to walk calmly through chaos, knowing that behind every event is the decree of a loving, all-knowing Lord. And so, the next time you feel yourself fighting against what is, stop and breathe. Remind yourself, Allah is not asking you to understand everything. He's asking you to trust Him through everything. Because when you surrender to His will, you align with the deepest truth of life, that everything you face is already known, already measured, already perfectly placed by the one who loves you most. Real power is not in control, it's in surrender, because the heart that submits to Allah fears nothing, not loss, not uncertainty, not tomorrow. And when you reach that level of trust, even the storm feels like peace. When you truly begin to trust in Allah's wisdom, something remarkable happens within you. A quiet transformation, a deep inner stillness. You start to see life differently. The same storms that once overwhelmed you no longer carry the same power. The same disappointments that once broke you begin to shape you. Because trust in Allah doesn't change your circumstances, it changes you in the midst of them. It gives you tranquility even when the world around you is filled with chaos. This peace isn't the absence of struggle, it's the presence of understanding. It's knowing that whatever comes your way, it has already been measured with perfect precision by the one who never errs. You begin to realize that life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. Every moment, every hardship, every delay is designed to awaken something within your soul, to draw you closer to Allah, to refine your faith until it becomes unshakable. The human mind is wired to seek explanations. We want to connect dots, to understand why things happen the way they do. But the heart of a believer learns to rest even without answers, because once you trust the one writing your story, you stop demanding to read every page. That's where serenity is found, in submission. Not in knowing the plan, but in knowing the planner. There's a profound psychological truth here. Anxiety often comes from resistance. Resisting what is, wishing life were different, fighting the present moment. Trust in Allah dissolves that resistance. It teaches you to accept, to adapt, and to grow. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? You start to say, what is Allah teaching me through this? That simple shift turns suffering into wisdom and pain into purpose. This is where faith moves from theory to experience. Because it's easy to say, Allah is wise when life feels kind, but when you face a loss, when prayers remain unanswered, when you're forced to walk through uncertainty, that's when these words are truly tested. And when you choose to trust even then, you discover a level of peace the world can't give you and can't take away from you. Many people search for peace by changing their circumstances, new jobs, new places, new people. But the peace that comes from trust in Allah doesn't depend on what changes around you, it depends on what changes within you. You realize that tranquility is not found in controlling the storm, but in standing firm while it passes. You stop needing life to be perfect in order to be content. You stop tying your happiness to outcomes and start anchoring it in faith. Even the companions of the Prophet, I understood this deeply. They went through unimaginable trials, exile, poverty, loss, yet they carried a serenity that baffled those around them. How could they remain calm when everything seemed against them? Because they had something unshakable conviction that Allah's plan is always better than their own. Their peace wasn't naive optimism, it was rooted in knowledge, the knowledge that Allah never wrongs His servants and that every decree carries wisdom even if unseen. And perhaps that's what we need most today, to relearn the art of trusting, to quiet the noise of what ifs and why me's, and to find stillness in knowing that Allah is in control. Because the moment you let go of trying to understand everything, you begin to experience everything differently. You find peace, not because life is easy, but because your heart is steady. So when the world feels chaotic, when plans fall apart, when prayers seem unanswered, remind yourself Allah is not silent. He is orchestrating something beyond your understanding. Trust that His wisdom is working even when you can't see it. And if you hold on to that trust long enough, you'll discover that even in chaos, there is calm, because the heart that trusts Allah is never truly shaken.